Hello and welcome to another edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to have a look at a Sudoku. The last few weeks we've had a look at the Diabolical Sudoku from the Daily Telegraph, which appears on Fridays. And I thought we'd take a look at last week's, but we do it slightly differently. So what I've done here is I've sort of filled in as far as you can get by using the pencil mark method that we recommend. So those of you who haven't been watching the series, you'll know that, or those of you who have been watching the series will know that what we like to do is we mark in a box where a number can only go in two positions in a 3x3 box. We make these little pencil marks, so you can see, for example, the 2's here. We've got a 2, big 2 here, a big 2 here, and a 2 here. So the 2's in this 3x3 box can only appear in this cell and this cell, and that's why we make pencil marks. And for most puzzles that appear in broadsheet newspapers, that will be enough to crack the puzzle. If you know a few tricks on top of that and ways of using the notation, you can make enough progress to get there. But I got to this point in this puzzle, and then I stopped and had to hunt quite hard for the next step. And I thought it's almost a discrete problem in its own right. So you may be looking at the grid sort of thinking, I can see exactly where the next step would be, and if you can, well done, and you should probably be competing in the World Sudoku Championship, so let us know. If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight on the screen now 4 cells. Well, I'm going to highlight 3 cells that I think you need to think about in terms of their importance in deducing the next stage in the solution to this puzzle. It's not that easy to see, but the way to get to it is to focus very hard on cells that can only contain 2 digits, and there are a few of them in this puzzle. But what you need to focus on is how 3 of these in particular interact with one another, because they can tell you something incredibly important about a 4th cell, which you should also see highlighted now. So the 4th cell is the one that you're going to be able to write a number into if you can understand what those first 3 cells are telling you. So without further ado, let me explain what's going on. So I'm going to actually remove pencil marks from the rest of the grid so we can just focus very clearly on what we need to. So I'll do that now. Okay. Now you can see that this cell here can be a 4 or an 8. This cell can be an 8 or a 9. Interestingly, this cell here is a 3 or a 4. And this cell here is also quite restricted. But you can see that we've got 4 cells here with only 2 options. And I've said that this is the cell that we need to think about. How can we use these 3 cells to restrict our option for this cell? And it's another of these situations that seem to come up quite often in these diagonal Sudokus, where if we just take a look at this cell, obviously if this cell is an 8, this cell is forced to be a 9. But let's ask ourselves the question, what if this cell is not an 8? Well, a very interesting thing happens. This would be a 4. That would force this to be a 3, and that would force this cell to be an 8. So either this cell is an 8, or this cell is an 8. Either must be true, and therefore any cell in this Sudoku puzzle that can see both of this cell and this cell, when I say see, I mean is in the same row and column or 3x3 box as the 2 cells, so there aren't many candidates. This cell, for example, could never contain an 8, because either this one will be an 8 or this one will be an 8. And similarly, the other cell that matters for is this one. This can never be an 8, because either this will stop it being an 8 or this will. Therefore, this cell is in fact a 9. And that is massively important for this puzzle, because that immediately allows us to write in the 9 and the 3 down here, which also gives us a 3 over here. Oops, not a 2 there, but a 3 here, and a 9 here. And it's plenty enough information actually to crack the puzzle open. So I just wanted to do a shorter video today on a sort of a little study, a point where you get stuck and how do you figure out the next stage, and looking for these interlinks between cells that contain only 2 digits is a good tip, especially for those of you who like to find the logical solution to the puzzle. I mean, for speed solvers, perhaps it would be quicker not to try and find this, but just to guess. I'm sure that would be the approach that Mark would use. But for those of you who like the sort of pure mathematical logic of these things, this is a very nice find. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Cracking the Cryptic.